In the grand theater of time, we humans were never supposed to be special. We were just another animal on the vast stage of the wild, fragile, soft-skinned, walking upright, looking around nervously as stronger beasts ruled the land. Lions hunted, elephants marched, and the skies belonged to eagles. We were weak, ordinary. But then, something changed, not in our bodies, but in our minds. About 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens, just one of several human species, began to imagine. And with that imagination, a revolution began. Not of weapons, not of tools, but of stories. This was the cognitive revolution, and it was our secret weapon. We began to believe in things that weren't there. Gods, spirits, rules, nations, justice, money. We began to tell stories not just around campfires, but across tribes. Fiction gave us power. No other species could unite millions of strangers with nothing but a shared myth. While chimpanzees could cooperate in dozens, humans began forming networks of thousands, then millions, because we believed in the same illusions. These illusions built empires. We started by hunting and gathering. Our lives were simple but free. We followed the rhythms of nature. We belonged to the earth. But then came the second revolution, agriculture. We planted seeds, domesticated animals, built villages. At first, it seemed like progress. But Harari asks, was it really? Or was it a trap? We traded wild adventure for settled anxiety. Farmers worked harder than foragers ever did, growing more food only to feed more people, only to work more, worry more, and suffer under the burden of ownership. The land we tamed began to tame us. Then came kingdoms, kings, priests, gods who lived in the sky but controlled life on earth. We built temples and palaces, invented money, created laws. Suddenly, stories weren't just entertainment, they were the foundation of society. A piece of gold had no meaning until everyone agreed it did. A scroll of paper became law when others feared its power. A god became real when millions bowed before it. Harari reveals a chilling truth. Humanity was built not on facts, but on collective imagination. The world we live in is a carefully woven illusion of shared belief. Empires rose and fell. Religions were born. People found meaning, order, and purpose, sometimes in love and art, sometimes in blood and conquest. Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, they gave structure to suffering, hope to chaos. And yet, no religion, no empire, no ideology was ever eternal. All were invented, refined, expanded, destroyed, and sometimes resurrected. But while we searched for meaning in temples and texts, another force began to stir, one that didn't look to the heavens for answers, but to the unknown, science. With the scientific revolution, we did something radical. We admitted ignorance. We said we don't know, and that single phrase launched humanity into an age of discovery unlike anything before. We stopped praying for rain and started building machines to control the weather. We mapped the stars, cured diseases, split atoms. We became gods with tools of steel and silicon. And as science grew, it found a partner, capitalism. Markets expanded. Corporations were born. Growth became a religion of its own. And so, we started to chase more money, more speed, more everything. We invented capitalism, credit, banks, and belief systems that valued consumption over contentment. The idea of constant growth turned from a strategy into an addiction. Corporations became modern empires, their logos more recognized than ancient deities. Profit dictated morality. Products became identity. We turned from villagers to consumers. And yet, in the rush of progress, something began to hollow out. We had more choices than ever, but more anxiety too. Longer lifespans, but shorter attention. More comfort, but less connection. We were wealthier than kings of the past, yet spiritually starved. Harari invites us to look deeper. Are we truly happier? We conquered famine, war, and disease to a large extent. But we also created new plagues: loneliness, burnout, ecological collapse. In our race for dominance, we shattered the environment, commodified our attention, and now, perhaps, are losing control of our own evolution. Because the future isn't just about flying cars or space colonies, it's about what it means to be human. We now stand at the edge of something terrifying and divine. With artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, and brain-computer interfaces, we are beginning to reprogram life itself, not just to heal, but to upgrade, to create superhumans. immortals, machines that think, and perhaps, creatures that no longer resemble us at all. Harari calls this the possible beginning of the end of Homo sapiens, and the rise of something else, something post-human. But what are we really chasing? Are we trying to escape death, or the fear of meaninglessness? Are we searching for happiness, or just stimulation? In our quest to become gods, have we forgotten the magic of being human? In the end, Sapiens is not just a book about history, it's a mirror. It reflects our past not to admire it, but to question it. It asks, if we created the myths, the systems, the institutions, then what stops us from creating better ones? If we imagined gods and nations and money, then can't we reimagine peace, equality, or purpose? Because we are the only species that writes its own story. We are the storytellers, the mythmakers, the dreamers. And though we've come far, from caves to cities, from flint tools to fusion engines, the question remains. Where do we go from here? And more importantly, who do we want to become? This is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of a choice. If you liked this sneak peek, share this with your friends and subscribe to help us grow and get you more interesting books.